Welcome everyone to Chamber Chat. Thank you for joining us again today. We are going to be talking about a very important and timely topic today regarding the Paycheck Protection Program. We're going to answer questions that our members have raised, and hopefully you'll be able to take this information and share it with your peer group and your network. I am very pleased to have with us today Mr. Mark Winchester from the SBA. Say hello to everyone, Mark, please.
Good morning. How are you all doing?
And also Jevaughn Sterling from Amegy Bank. Good morning, Jevaughn.
Good morning, Carol. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
Thank you. And so I'll just briefly introduce you all to both of these outstanding gentlemen. First, Mr. Mark Winchester is the Deputy Director for the Houston District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration. As Deputy Director, Mr. Winchester's duties include supervising district staff and assisting the district director in overseeing the delivery of SBA programs and services in 32 counties. Last year, this included over $1 billion in loan guarantees and surety for small businesses in the district. So this is definitely someone we want to hear from. And Mr. Jevaughn Sterling is a Senior Vice President at Amegy Bank, Texas. He is presently a Regional Commercial Banking Manager who is responsible for leading the bank's strategic growth efforts in South Houston. From 2009 to 2017, Jevaughn oversaw Amegy Bank's U.S. Small Business Administration program, so he is very well versed on this matter. He and his team provided capital to fast-growing companies in Texas with loan originations of over $450 million. So everyone, welcome our guests to Chamber Chat, and we will get into our questioning first, starting with Mark. So Mark, we're going to just cover a few basics first because I think the Paycheck Protection Program, from the feedback I've received, has been a little bit confusing for our members and supporters. So would you explain what the PPP program is and what it's supposed to do?
Sure. The PPP program is a program, and I need to clarify here. SBA, in response to COVID-19, has two loan programs. One program is called the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan program is a loan program directly from SBA. The other loan program in response to COVID-19 is the PPP program, the Payroll Protection Program. Payroll Protection Program is different from EIDL in that EIDL is a disaster loan directly from SBA that you apply online, but the Payroll Protection Program is a loan program that you participate by going to a local SBA lender who is actually participating in the PPP program.
That's an important distinction.
Yes, ma'am. And there's some other important factors regarding PPP. PPP is a 2-year program. PPP has a 6-month deferment. PPP has a 1% interest rate. So these are all factors related to the PPP. It is also a program that goes up to $10 million. So 2 years, 6-month deferment, 1% interest rate, and it's up to $10 million. The focus of the PPP program, as the name implies, is payroll. And the payroll protection is for your employees. So the intent of this program is to keep your employees with your business, and these funds are for that. Now, in addition to payroll, the Payroll Protection Program is for rent, utilities, and mortgage interest. Now, there's a question regarding PPP, whether it is a grant or whether it is a loan. The PPP, also known as Payroll Protection Program, is a loan. It is not a grant. Now, is there within PPP, is there loan forgiveness? There is loan forgiveness. That loan forgiveness is for an 8-week period. But to get the complete loan forgiveness for the 8-week period, 75% of the cost for that 8-week period must be payroll, and the other 25% can be non-payroll cost, as I mentioned, rent, utilities, and mortgage interest.
So as far as the PP loan is concerned, thank you for clarifying that, because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and people are getting the EIDL loan and the PPP loan confused in what their purposes are. So thank you for that clarification. Is there any, and I'll ask this question for both Jevaughn and Mark, is there any information, specific information that applicants need to have prior to applying? There have been some varying reports about what documents are needed, what exactly is necessary, and what can I put with my application that would almost guarantee my approval. And we know that with loan applications, there aren't any guarantees that anyone will get approved. So, Mark, do you have any comment with regard to that?
I can and I do, but Jevaughn, because you're a lender, I would like to hear from your perspective. I don't want to steal your thunder, so if you'd like to respond to that, and I'll make any additional comments after you respond, Jevaughn. Go ahead.
Certainly. And the SBA has done a really remarkable job of condensing the information and the application guidelines in their interim final rule. And if there are any questions about, am I eligible, how to apply, and documentation, please visit the SBA's website and read the interim final rule. So as you're going through the application process, you have a definitive guideline that can help you through this process. And the answer to the question specifically will vary depending on the type of business that is applying for the PPP loan. Businesses can generally be categorized as those with employees and those without employees. So general guidelines. If you have employees and you pay these employees W-2 wages, you can use the W-2 wages along with retirement benefits and group health care benefits and state taxes to calculate the maximum amount of the loan that you can borrow from a financial institution. If you do not have employees, you can still apply for the PPP loan as a sole proprietor, an independent contractor. And the guidelines there require you to submit your Schedule C. Your Schedule C, your statement of income expenses that you report in your 1040, will show your net earnings. Your net earnings can be submitted as part of your payroll calculation, and that amount is capped at $100,000. The formula for determining your maximum loan amount is the lesser of $100,000 or your net earnings divided by 12, multiplied by 2.5 times.
So hopefully you all have pen and paper and took down those notes, because those are key notes. Those are things that some applicants were not aware of prior to completing their applications and are finding themselves being rejected, unfortunately, in the process. So we want to make sure we pay close attention to what Jevaughn is stating. And certainly we will have the replay of this posted so that you can capture that information again. Mark, would you have anything to add to what Jevaughn stated?
No, it's an excellent point, and I would like to make, actually, let me back up. First, I've known Jevaughn for some time. I came on board with SBA. My wife and I moved to Houston in 2010, came on board with SBA in 2010, and one of the first organizations that I started attending was the Houston Association of Government Guaranteed Lenders, and that's where I first met Jevaughn. And so I'm very appreciative of the work, collaboration, opportunity working with Jevaughn, whether it's been Hagel, whether it's been Amegy Bank, whether it's Rice University and Biz Battle. So it's great to be on this call with Jevaughn. Also, Jevaughn did an outstanding job of explaining and delineating what is needed with the PPP. And Jevaughn made a very good point, eligibility. Who is eligible for the PPP? It includes small businesses affected by COVID-19 with less than 500 employees. And you could, as Jevaughn astutely observed, it includes employers, but it can include, in addition to employers, sole proprietorships, independent contractors, private nonprofits, 501c19. So I really did appreciate Jevaughn pointing out, you could be an employer, you could have W-2s for payrolls, but you could also be a sole proprietor and independent contractor. And depending on what you are and depending on how you file with the IRS, that could be a K-1, could be a Schedule C on your 1040. And like Jevaughn pointed out, it could be net income because of your status as a sole proprietor or 1099, and that needs to be reported properly as well. So just job well done by Jevaughn. I also wanted to point out, Carol, that the lenders here in Houston have done an outstanding job. Two comments, Carol. One, with the first round of appropriations, $349 billion, the number one state, Carol, in the country for PPP loans was Texas. And the reason for that are lenders such as Amegy, and the leadership, including individuals like Jevaughn, working with small businesses. That's why Texas is number one in PPP loans. The other thing that I wanted to share, Carol, is that since last Monday at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, over $175 billion have already been approved from lenders, including Amegy, for this go-around. So the time is of the essence. I think, it was amazing, Carol. We, since March 18th, we've done I estimate 150 webinars, and Tim estimates, our district director, that we've done 200 webinars. Carol reached out to us on Friday saying, Mark, can you do a webinar either Monday or Tuesday? And we said yes. And Carol was emailing me Friday night, I think it was close to 10 p.m. for my bio. And so just want to let you know, we've done between 150 and 200 webinars since March 18th. And that because of lenders such as Jevaughn, $175 billion, and the money is going quickly, and that's why it was time. Time is of the essence, and that's why we wanted to do the webinar today. And just wanted to share, Carol, with your members that time is important. They need to apply now because there was $310 billion, and that leaves $135 billion. And my boss, Tim, pointed out, Carol, that there were probably some loans being processed over the weekend as well.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask with regard to the funding that would come after this round. There's been some talk that the Paycheck Protection Program is going to have to be extended and additional rounds of money provided for small business owners. Have you heard any mention of that, additional rounds of money?
Carol, excellent question. We're the federal government, and I can report on what we've done. Congress and the legislation that they pass and the status on that legislation, that's Congress. I will share what the District Director, Tim Jevaughn, would say, and that is we can't guarantee you what Congress is going to do. We can only give you the information on appropriations that have been passed. And as I mentioned a moment ago, what was remaining as of Friday is $135 billion. So if, you know, if Tim were here, he would say, don't assume that there's going to be another round of appropriations. Assume that you have 135 billion and time is of the essence, and you need to complete your application and submit everything. Lenders such as Jevaughn and Amegy and, you know, Carol, we've seen a 200% increase in the number of SBA lenders participating in the SBA programs. Prior to COVID-19, we had 135, 140 lenders participating in the SBA program. There are now over 400 lenders participating in the SBA program and participating in PPP. These lenders need a complete package. So whether it's Allegiance Bank or the other 399 other lenders that are participating in Houston for PPP, you need to submit your 2483, you need to submit your 940, you need to submit your 1099, you need to submit your Schedule C, you need to submit your K1, depending on your legal structure and depending on how you report to the IRS, you need to submit these things ASAP. And I'll share this, the application for the PPP is Form 2483. So they need to make sure, and they need to get the SBA Form 2483 for the PPP. They need to get a copy that's dated April 2020. April 2020.
Okay, and so that is the type of information we need, because I've heard some reports about being rejected for the loan. And Jevaughn, I'd like for you to comment. What are you seeing as far as some of the businesses are concerned that is keeping them from getting approved?
Well, Carol, as you know, the SBA relaxed the eligibility guidelines to include companies and organizations who wouldn't typically have been eligible for SBA loans, like not-for-profit organizations. So in doing so, they've really made an effort to expand and ensure that we can include as many companies as possible to participate in this program. We're seeing approvals primarily being done in the second round and first round based on complete applications. So as Mark indicated before, the documentation requirement to show that you have payroll costs, documentation is fairly straightforward. It's your filing for tax payroll taxes, so your 940, your 941, or your 944. Generally speaking, that in addition to the SBA application, which Amegy Bank has allowed companies or applicants to go online to submit an electronic application and process their application through DocuSign. So those forms are embedded in our application, so it's easier to locate. When we see files rejected, we see instances where a borrower is uncertain about being approved at one institution, so they may submit applications at multiple institutions. What SBA has done is processed applications according to the date received. So it's in a sense a race to the line, to the front of the line, and whichever lender is able to process that application first is able to communicate that SBA approval to their borrowers. If another lender attempts to submit an application for the same borrower, the SBA system will flag that and reject the application. What we're also doing is to ensure that the completeness of the application is also reviewed at multiple levels within our organization. So we recognize SBA as place a responsibility on the lender to process the application and the responsibility on the borrower to ensure that the information is accurate. But we set up multiple reviews in our process to ensure that applications aren't rejected through technicalities. If an application is rejected, we have a process for resubmitting them and addressing any outstanding items that may potentially cause it to be rejected.
That's good to know, because I'm not sure that every bank that's offering this program actually helps the business owner by showing them what they missed in their application and allowing them to reapply. So I think that's one of the benefits of working with Amegy, is that Amegy Bank is community focused and very interested in supporting our small businesses. And you all are still accepting applications, or are you up at this time?
We are in a position to accept new applicants, and I would encourage everyone to check the Amegy Bank's website or message me directly, and I'll be happy to assist with providing a link to that application.
Do you also offer any assistance or refer your clients to organizations that may be able to help our businesses make sure they turn in the best application possible?
We do offer assistance. We're very well prepared and trained to identify the forms and documentation that's necessary based on the type of businesses. So in most cases, we'll ask the applicants to contact their CPAs to provide additional information if they don't have it at their initial disclosure. But we do help our applicants. We look over the loan amount just to verify that it's within the guidelines, and we make recommendations for the documentation. And then we submit it. Once the applications are submitted, it comes to a banker, and the banker is able to review the application and make sure that it's submitted appropriately and accurately.
And Mark and Jevaughn, I think you both might be able to respond to this question, or at least give some guidance and understanding as far as this question is concerned. How quickly are funds disbursed once an application is approved?
Jevaughn, if I can give the official answer, officially from SBA, Carol, the time period is 10 days. The lender has 10 days to disperse the funds. But I wanted, Carol, just, you mentioned about community banks. I don't know if your members are aware, and I don't know if you were aware, Carol, this time around in appropriations for the $310 billion, of the $310 billion, $60 billion was set aside for community lenders. That included lenders in financial institutions with $10 billion to $50 billion in assets, and another $30 billion that was set aside for lenders with less than $10 billion in assets. So the focus was more community lenders having the opportunity to submit their clients' applications for the PPP. And I wanted to let you know, Carol, that 70% of the loans for the PPP this round in appropriations were 50,000 or smaller. The first round of appropriations, there was 1.6 million loans. This time around, Carol, 2.2 million loans so far for the $175 billion, and 70% of those went to small businesses who were applying for 50,000 or less. Also wanted to make some additional comments, Carol, and Jevaughn is correct. A couple of things I wanted to clarify. A small business can only apply for one PPP loan. They can only have one PPP loan. And Jevaughn is right. We're getting clients contacting us here at the office saying, I've applied with a lender and it's being postponed. Well, come to find out, they didn't tell the lender that they had applied at X, they had applied at Y, and they had applied at Z. And so in addition to, you can only have, one PPP loan, if you are an individual and you're going to apply with a bank and you've applied at one bank, but you've decided, you know what, I'm going to apply for the PPP at another bank, you first have to tell the first lender that you want to cancel their application. If you don't tell that first lender that you want to cancel or withdraw the PPP application, that's going to prevent you from applying and getting approved on your next submittal of the PPP. So I just wanted to share that as well.
Yes, that's important. Jevaughn, did you have a comment?
Yes, the general guideline that we've published is that the process will take 7 to 10 days. And that includes initially submitting an application, reviewing it internally, submitting it to the SBA, obtaining an SBA approval number, processing loan documents, and funding. So that's the entire window. According to the volume of applications we're receiving, we initially encountered delays in processing these applications, but now that we're receiving SBA approvals, my experience is that we're funding within 1 to 2 days of the approval number being generated by SBA.
And you know, Carol, I want to put things in perspective also. The lenders here in Houston normally, Carol, the lenders here in Houston normally would do $1 billion in SBA lending in an entire year. The lenders here in Houston for the PPP did $3 billion, technically $2.98 billion in 14 days. So what they would normally do in 12 months, they did 3 times that in 14 days. And that doesn't include the second round of PPP loans, the second round over 175 billion, and 2.2 million loans just in the second round. So Carol, what I share with the media, what I share with clients, imagine a Hurricane Harvey happening in every state, in all 50 states. That's the scale of what we're working with here. And just want to let you know, these lenders are doing 3 times what they would normally do in a year, and they did that in 14 days.
So, and that's, to me, you know, just from talking to some of our banking supporters, you know, that's the thing. They're working around the clock from what I surmise, as far as trying to get the loans approved, you know, get the loans out of the
Correct.
door.
That's correct. That is correct.
So,
Carol,
yeah.
just to let you know, these lenders are working around the clock. Tim and I, we get calls at 10 o'clock at night on Friday nights, and they're saying, we are here at the bank and we are processing these loans. So they are working around the clock, Carol.
So, so then the advice is to be patient as far as getting your loans approved and receiving the check. We know that that's not really what we want to hear,
right.
But there's only so much that can be done through this process with the manpower and the number of applications that are being submitted. So I think that we'll need to just exercise patience, and eventually the check will come and we'll be able to continue on with business. So Jevaughn, I have a question for you. What do you think it is about the Amegy banking structure that you have been able to figure out any bottlenecks to get your clients through the process? Because I've heard from, you know, considering other banking institutions, I had a member contact me over the weekend about not being able to get funded at an institution that she's been very loyal to for several years, and was not satisfied and applied during the first round and still has not received funding. So what do you think you're doing differently at Amegy Bank?
Well, I'd be happy to speak with that colleague of yours to try to help them through this process. I think if you were to sum it up into one word, I would say Amegy has been very adaptable. The entire organization has embraced this process, and we've dedicated more manpower to this process than anything that I've seen in the 18 years that I've been with the organization. We have teams upon teams of individuals who are working on the PPP loan process and working directly with their borrowers. One important distinction is that we've really empowered our bankers on the front line to work directly with their borrowers. So even though it's an online application process, the application comes to a queue where the assigned banker, receives that application and is able to contact their applicant and work with them one-on-one. So this increases the chances of approval. It allows us to review the file at a very local level and provide advice. And when the loan is processed, that banker can track the approval process and communicate at various stages of approval to the client. So it's been a very it's been an amazing process to watch, to see as all our colleagues who all play different roles in the bank have turned their attention to the PPP process to make it effective for the bank.
Well, that's an interesting point, because I'm sure there are members out there and people in the business community who have had similar stories. They've applied early on, they made sure they got everything in, they were told they had everything in, and then they still weren't approved. So for Mark and Jevaughn, if you come across a person who's already in the system, who already has a loan application in but hasn't been funded, hasn't been told why, and they need to get the funding in, what can they do if they want to look at another banking institution, especially if they already have an application in the pipeline?
I've had this instance a number of times, and my response is communication. Make sure you can contact a banker who is handling or is in the process and can help you understand exactly where you are in the process. Because if you start over with another institution, you run the risk of potentially not being approved because funds have been exhausted. So you want to preserve your place in line with that particular lender and have them communicate exactly where you are in the process. If they've submitted all the documentation and it's just a matter of processing and timing, I would recommend that you stick with that lender. If that lender has informed you that they're not able to process your application, then I would reach out to another institution, and Amegy Bank would be happy to assist.
Mark, do you have any comment?
No, thank you, Carol. Jevaughn hit the nail on the head. It's communication. You want to find out what's the status of your loan, and you need to know, has it gone to underwriting? Has underwriting approved it? Has the lender submitted your PPP loan application in E-Tran? And where is it? E-Tran is a software, and it's a software that lenders are able to upload. Sometimes lenders will, the more sophisticated lenders will have their own software, and then they will transfer those applications from their software over to SBA's E-Tran. And so you need to know, as a borrower, where are you in that process? And the way you can determine that where you are is by staying in touch with your lender, by that communication. And Jevaughn is correct, and I can't emphasize enough, you can only have one PPP loan, and you can only be dealing with one lender at a time. Tim and I, we got an email on Sunday, yesterday, and the borrower had applied at BoeFly, and then BoeFly had assigned their application to a lender, and they didn't know to which lender BoeFly had assigned their PPP application. In the meantime, since they didn't know which lender BoeFly had submitted their application, they went to a national lender. And from the national lender, they still didn't know their status, and they had applied to a third lender. And so individuals need to be aware that you can only have one PPP application, and you can only have one PPP loan, and you can only be dealing with one financial institution, one lender at a time. And either if you cannot find the status of your loan, or you're not able to communicate with that lender, you need to find, and you want to go to another lender to apply for the PPP, you first must have that first PPP loan application canceled.
So that brings up Jevaughn, did you have something more you wanted to add?
No, I think Mark answered the question very well.
But that that brings up another point. What about the business owner that says, I actually need help beyond 8 weeks of payroll protection? Can they reapply for an additional loan?
So,
Jevaughn, if I may answer that, Carol, there can only be one PPP loan, and what I wanted to share with your members and with you is that in addition to the PPP, we also have the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan, so the PPP is up to $10 million, the EIDL is up to $2 million. And whereas the PPP is 24 months, you have up to 30 years for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, where the interest rate for the PPP was 1%, the interest rate for the EIDL is 3 3/4%. So the interest rate is a little bit higher. But with that said, instead of 24 months to pay it back, you have up to 30 years to pay it back. Likewise, Carol, where the PPP, the focus is on payroll, the focus on the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is a direct loan from SBA that you apply for online, is for operating cost. It is for your working capital. It is for your, they call it fixed expenses, your repeating expenses. And so another resource, Carol, in addition to the PPP, is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And I wanted to share with you, Carol, that the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, we have a total of $60 billion this time around. $50 billion for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and $10 billion for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance. So like the PPP, the EIDL is a loan. It is not a grant. The EIDL is a loan. But there is a portion called the EIDL Advance that includes appropriations of $10 billion. When they apply for the EIDL loan, Carol, your members have the option to select to ask for the EIDL Advance. The EIDL Advance, Carol, does not have to be paid back. The EIDL Advance does not have to be paid back. And the formula for the EIDL Advance is $1,000 per employee, up to 10 employees, totaling $10,000 in the EIDL Advance.
And so that's a little bit different from when the program was offered initially, where we were told that 10,000 of the EIDL loan was a grant, and it sounds like it's been updated. So.
Oh, and I apologize, Carol. No, you are correct. What I wanted to clarify, the EIDL loan itself, which is up to $2 million, is a loan. And I apologize, Carol. The EIDL Advance, they call it Advance. It's also known as a grant. But the EIDL Advance, also known as a grant, is separate from the EIDL loan itself. But you apply for both with the same application. So you're correct. And I want to emphasize, Carol, it's not 10,000, it's up to 10,000.
Right.
And when you apply for the EIDL loan, there's a question. Under owner information, there are 5 sections to the EIDL loan application. Under owner information, there's going to be a question, Carol, and it's going to say, do you want to receive the EIDL Advance, which is up to $10,000? You have a choice. Either yes or no. And if you select yes, that means regardless of the EIDL loan itself, you can get an EIDL grant, also known as EIDL Advance, up to $10,000, and that is separate from the EIDL loan itself.
Mm-hmm. So we need to be clear. The only grant portion out of the 2 offerings from the SBA, from our government, the only grant portion is the grant that is attached to the EIDL loan, and that does not have to be paid back, correct?
Correct. That's correct. And Jevaughn, do you want to share about the loan forgiveness on the PPP? I don't want to steal your thunder. Would you like to talk about the PPP loan forgiveness?
Sure. Under the PPP program, if businesses use the funds to maintain payroll and pay eligible expenses, those funds could be forgiven. Now, the criteria for forgiveness is still being defined, but we've been given some general guidelines. And what the SBA will ask businesses to certify is that they've maintained payroll during an 8-week period after they've been approved for their PPP loan. During that period, if employees have been furloughed and they're brought back, their compensation have not been reduced, then they could qualify for a full forgiveness of the loan. So there's such a thing as partial forgiveness. If payroll has been reduced or headcount has been reduced, then the amount of the forgiveness will be reduced accordingly, according to the percentage of reduction that occurred in that 8-week period. So in order to qualify for loan forgiveness, you'll have to submit documentation lenders have up to 60 days by the SBA to submit the documentation showing that they've used the funds accordingly if they want their loans to be forgiven.
Okay, so I think that you have greatly helped us with understanding the grant versus the loan, and the forgiveness piece on the PPP, because the forgiveness piece on the PPP can function as a grant if certain criteria are met, correct?
That is correct.
And Mark, do you have anything you want to add?
No, Jevaughn did an outstanding job, and I'll leave it at that. He did a very good job.
Hey, Carol, I'd like to go back to the question. The initial question is what happens if I need assistance beyond this PPP program? And the CARES Act included a very important provision that's not well known, but it's being used by banks to help customers. So in the first round of funding, funds were set aside for the SBA loan relief program. So an existing borrower that has an SBA loan will not have to make payments on their SBA loan for up to 6 months because the SBA will make those payments for them. And that could provide a significant relief, allowing those PPP funds to be used for other purposes to preserve the business. Another, outside of the SBA loan relief program, banks have offered to defer payments for up to 90 days. So in theory, someone that has an SBA loan can have their loan payments made for 6 months. After 6 months, if they need more assistance, they can contact their lender and discuss a deferment of up to 90 days, which will give them up to 9 months of relief. So in total, you have a PPP loan that's assisting you with expenses. You have deferment of 90 days, and you have SBA loan relief for 6 months. Altogether, that package of relief can be substantially beneficial to customers. Now, if a customer does not have an SBA loan, but they have a traditional loan, they will not qualify for SBA loan relief because the SBA loan relief only applies to SBA 7A loans, express loans, and SBA 504 debenture, the second lien portion of the 504 loan. But if they have just a conventional loan, most banks are working with their borrowers and providing them with a 90-day deferment of payments. So there are additional resources out there, in addition to tax credits, unemployment insurance enhancements, a lot of other provisions outside of the PPP loan program that business owners need to be researching. And if they need any information, go to the SBA's website or treasury.gov and read up on all the available resources that have been included in the CARES Act to assist businesses during this time.
So there are no shortcuts. You're going to have to read and spend some time doing research so that once you apply and start going through the process, you don't become frustrated. Forearmed is forewarned. So, Mark, do you have any comment?
No, I give, Carol, Tim and I, the office, we present a lot, and I'll say from the School of SBA, I give you an A+. So I give you both, Carol, you and Jevaughn both, Carol for the questions and Jevaughn for the answers he's been providing, and he's right on point. You want to visit sba.gov, and you want to click on COVID-19. You want to click on debt relief, and Jevaughn is on point. Whether it's 7A, 504, microloan, you can get up to 6 consecutive months of deferment. And in addition to the deferment, Jevaughn is correct. If you have an existing SBA loan, SBA will start making payments on your 7A loan within 30 days of March 27th, 2020. And in addition to that, Jevaughn, it brought to my memory and my attention that in addition to the 7A, 504, and microloan for deferment up to 6 consecutive months, we also, SBA, made an automatic deferment on your disaster loan. So if you have a disaster loan from Harvey, from Ike, from the Memorial Day flood, the tax day flood, if you have an existing disaster SBA loan, SBA is deferring payment on that loan through December 31st, 2020. The other thing that I would mention, and Jevaughn is doing a great job, this CARES Act had other funds in addition to the PPP and EIDL, and in the CARES Act there was $210 million for the SBDCs and our partners in the delivery of counseling. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention about the 3 SBA resource partners, the Gulf Coast SBDC, Small Business Development Network, SCORE Chapter 37, and the Women's Business Enterprise Alliance Women's Business Center. They can assist you in cash flow management, messaging, branding, importing, exporting, supply chain management, strategic planning, planning for further disaster. And they, Carol and Jevaughn, these partners have been counseling businesses regarding their PPP application and their EIDL loan application. And if you visit their website, they have specific information and resources in response to COVID-19. The other thing that I'll share, Carol, is the City of Houston Office of Business Opportunity. I call them OBO. City of Houston Office of Business Opportunity. You visit their website and scroll down to their small business resources in response to COVID-19. They have a wealth of resources that are non-SBA. And one other thing, Carol, I'm just looking. We had a list of, give me 1 second.
All good information, and your partners they're providing the counseling services for free, Mark?
Yes, and Carol, yes. So their assistance, the resource partners, SBDC, SCORE, and Women's Business Enterprise Alliance, Women's Business Center, the one-on-one counseling is free and confidential. And I want to emphasize, Carol, it's online because of the COVID-19. The one-on-one counseling is virtual, it's online, but they're meeting with clients and helping them with the PPP application, the EIDL, and the other resources in response to COVID-19.
Excellent. And Mark, there was something you wanted to point out.
Yes, and thank you, Carol. I just want to mention, People Fund, Lift Fund, Texas Restaurant. If you're a restaurant, the Texas Restaurant Association has a grant program. The Galveston EDA, Economic Development Authority, they have a program. So there are Wounded Warrior. Wounded Warrior has programs for veterans related to COVID-19. I believe Hello Alice for women-owned small businesses has assistance in response to COVID-19. So, Carol, there's a lot of non-SBA resources that are out there as well.
Thank you for that, Mark, because our members do need to be made aware of all that's out there. And thank you, Jevaughn, for bringing that into our conversation. Before we wrap up, this has been a great session, and we appreciate your time. Mark, are there any quick updates that you can provide for us? And then I'd like to give our members a few tips as they go through the application process that might make their experience a little bit better. So let's start with the updates, Mark, that for the PPP loan and the EIDL loan.
Just a couple of things. For PPP, Carol, I would just emphasize, as of Friday, there was $135 billion remaining. Your members need to, time is of the essence, and if they're going to choose the PPP, if the PPP is appropriate for them, they need to gather their documents, complete the 2483, and that there are SBA partners that can assist them. The other thing that I would share, Carol, is that there is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and the EIDL Advance / grant, and there's $60 billion for that, and those funds are still available. The website for EIDL is currently not available because ODA, Office of Disaster Assistance, they're getting caught up on the existing applications that they have. It will be made available shortly, and when it is available, that's another loan program in addition to the PPP that your members can take advantage of, and it's online, www.sba.gov/disaster, and then click apply. The other thing that I would share, Carol, is for your members to visit the Houston District Office website, www.sba.gov/tx/Houston, and then visit our resources in response to COVID-19.
Thank you, Mark. Jevaughn, any tips?
Yeah, Mark was correct. Our colleagues have been working around the clock, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to process these applications. Last week's Sunday, not yesterday Sunday, but the prior Sunday, we submitted a file to the SBA containing over 20,000 applications, and we're pleased that on Saturday or Sunday, this past Saturday or Sunday, we received approvals on up to 90% of the files that we submitted in that batch. So we're very pleased with the progress and being able to obtain approval for our existing customers. Another thing I will say is that we are working diligently to find out how we can resubmit those applications that were not approved. We would not like to have borrowers denied an opportunity to be funded on a technicality. So we're contacting our borrowers and reviewing applications and determining how we can resubmit. The final thing I'll say is this has been a challenging process for a lot of financial institutions to determine how to administer this program. And again, I will say that Amegy Bank has been very adaptable. The entire organization has been devoted to processing these applications. And we've also welcomed new customers to the bank through this process. We thought it was important to make the program available to not just existing customers, but to new customers. What we asked them to do is to open an Amegy checking account so those funds can be deposited, and they can be deposited timely and efficiently, and they can use those funds from their new Amegy account. this might be an opportunity for them to start a new banking relationship with Amegy. And so we want to give the public an opportunity to experience our organization, and hopefully they'll be pleased.
Well, thank you both. This has been a great conversation. Jevaughn Sterling from Amegy Bank and Mark Winchester from the SBA. Thank you for giving your time to the Chamber today. Please visit Amegy's website. What is your website, Jevaughn?
www.amegybank.com/cares, CARES.
And SBA.gov, correct, Mark Winchester?
The two websites locally, www.sba.gov/TX/Houston. And then to learn more about the EIDL and PPP, you can also visit our national website, www.sba.gov/disaster.
Thank you so much. And everyone, please make sure that you pay attention to GHBCC.com for the latest COVID-19 updates. Please pay attention to our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, where we strive to bring you the latest information and pertinent content that can help your businesses. Also, please support our businesses through HoustonByBlack.com. That's HoustonByBlack.com. Again, thank you for joining us today for Chamber Chat, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Again, Mark and Jevaughn, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.